This podcast was written and created by Avi Melamed, Middle East intelligence analyst and founder of the Inside the Middle East Institute.
From the cafes, cartoons, and conversations you won't see in Western headlines. This is another story straight from inside the Arab Street with Avi Melamed.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We're going straight to the core of what's happening in Iran right now. For this deep dive, we're focusing exclusively on Avi Melamed's analysis, which argues what we're seeing isn't just another protest.
No, not at all. He calls it an uprising, and that distinction is, it's absolutely crucial.
A real history-making moment, he says.
It is, but the reality on the ground is, well, it's grim. The regime has shut down communications, internet, phones, everything. The figures Melamed uses are cautious, but we're talking about at least a couple of thousands of Iranians that have been killed.
And thousands more detained.
Exactly. The regime is fighting for its very survival.
So to understand that fight, that desperation, we really have to go back to the regime's, its radical foundation. It's rooted in Iran's identity, right?
It is. You had these competing components, Persian ethnicity, a kind of territorial nationalism, and of course, the Shiite religion, the whole westernization thing. That was always just a thin layer on top.
A very thin elite layer. The real ideological power, the spiritual engine, comes directly from Shiism. It's got this profound, tragic element.
Rooted in that 7th century battle at Karbala.
Right, where Hussein bin Ali was slaughtered. For believers, that martyrdom is everything. As the saying goes, every day is Ashura and every place is Karbala.
Wow, that's a powerful idea. But how does an ancient tragedy become a modern political tool? How do you build a state on that?
That's the key. It's tied to the concept of the absent imam. The dominant 12th Shia faith believes the 12th Imam, al-Mahdi, he isn't gone, he's just waiting, outside of time and history to be summoned up.
Okay, so if the true leader is absent, how does the current supreme leader justify his rule?
This is where the regime gets its authority, through a doctrine called Wilat al-Faqih.
The rule of the jurisprudent.
Exactly. It formally makes the supreme leader the placeholder of the absent imam, and therefore, as Melamed explains, his rule has to be blindly obeyed.
But not everyone agrees with that, even within the clergy.
Oh, not at all. And that's fascinating. You have figures like Grand Ayatollah Ali Sistani who completely reject mixing religion and state power like this.
Okay, so with that ideological concrete at its foundation, let's pivot to the street. What fueled this specific uprising? What made people finally break through that fear?
Well, Melamed calls it the collapse, downfall, major cracks of the wall of fear, and it seems to be a confluence of things.
It starts with desperation, I imagine.
Complete desperation. The economy has collapsed. We're talking about vital infrastructure like water systems just failing. People are literally showing their empty pockets. They have nothing left to lose.
And then there's this really interesting regional dynamic. The analysis says the regime's image was significantly fractured by the domino effect of October 7th.
How? Because it exposed their weakness. Suddenly their proxies in the region looked vulnerable. Yeah. And then you had the 12 Days War with Israel, where Israel was seen as, just dominating the skies.
It shattered that carefully built image of power.
Completely. And then on top of that internal desperation, you get this boost from the outside.
You mean President Trump's statement?
Yeah, that dramatic statement promising the U.S. would interfere if protesters were killed. According to Melamed, that created a real anticipation among the people that help was coming.
So, with all that in the mix, where do things go from here?
The analysis is pretty clear that while the regime is facing an unprecedented threat and that it will collapse eventually, for right now, it is still holding on.
So the outcome hinges on a few key groups, doesn't it? What are the factors we should all be watching?
There are three main elements. First, the Iranian armed forces. They're still on the sideline. If they make a move, that's a game changer.
Okay, what's second?
The low to mid-level clergy. These are the clerics who are actually connected to the people. If they start to turn, the regime's religious justification just crumbles.
And the third?
The economy's vital veins, the oil industry sector, and the truck drivers. If they organize, they could paralyze the entire state.
So the takeaway here seems to be that even if the regime crushes this round, the underlying problems don't go away.
They can't. The analysis states the regime cannot address the needs of the people, which means the next round will be around the corner.
Which brings us to the final, bigger picture, the reaction from the rest of the region.
And it is stark. The Arab governments, the rulers, they are mute. They aren't shedding any tears for the mullahs. But on Arab social media,
A totally different story.
a completely different story. You see clear identification with the Persian people. There's even this Kurdish caricature he points to that calls out Arab media like Al Jazeera for ignoring the massacre. And that leaves you with a really provocative question to think about. When the states are silent, how much power does that empathy on the street really have?
This podcast is made possible by supporters like you. ITME is an independent, nonprofit institute committed to apolitical, intelligence-based Middle East education.
To learn more or to support our work, visit our website www.insidethemiddle-east.com.